Hello there.
So there are a lot of components when it comes to making movies, acting, editing, writing, cinematography, you name it. But one of the most important aspects of film is music. Whether it's a classic 80s song to pump up the nostalgia factor or an original composition performed by a massive orchestra, even films that are steaming hot garbage can be enhanced with the proper musical scoring and or soundtrack. For instance, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate this film in the slightest, but I don't think it's necessarily good. Let me explain. This film is really dumb. Like, really dumb. But I don't know. I find it kind of charming. Okay.
They fly now! They fly now? They fly now!
Was it a good finale? Not in the slightest. Why did Disney try to act like this is going to be hitting endgame levels of finale standards? Anyway, no matter how you think the film is, you can't deny that the soundtrack is incredible. Even though it's technically a greatest hits album, it pretty much only uses famous pieces from its predecessors. But the themes used in the Star Wars franchise are crafted in such a brilliant way that it works for me. But I do have to say, they missed out on putting Duel of Fates on that cool Death Star fight. That would have been so cool. I mean, they did in the TV spot. Why couldn't they just put in the actual movie? Funnily enough, another example of a bad movie having beautiful scores is in the same cussing franchise. Duel of Fates, Cross the Stars, those pieces are gorgeous. But the films they are backing aren't. However, I'm gonna stop talking about Star Wars because this video isn't about that, and I got more to talk about. You all know John Carpenter's Halloween, right? The 1978 horror classic, indie. I absolutely love this film. Well, did you know that it originally has no music? Yeah, if you're familiar with the franchise, you probably already knew that, but to give a brief rundown, during test screenings, the film had no score, and the audience pretty much spat on John Carpenter, calling the film terrible and yada yada yada, you know the deal. So he went back and created one of the most iconic horror soundtracks of all time. Even ignoring the iconic theme, imagine watching Halloween without the stingers or Laurie's theme or the dun-dun. The film just wouldn't be the same. But now, since I've gotten my point out of the way, I want to gush about some of my favorite film composers in recent years, and since they're my favorite, in my opinion, I think they're the best. Hans Zimmer. So, you probably know who this guy is, but oh my god, Hans Zimmer is great. He definitely deserved the Oscar last year. I'm gonna speed this one up because, once again, you probably know who he is. Something I find funny is that most of his pieces consist of a very gradual build-up, but his payoff is so satisfying and beautiful, the past 4 minutes you spent listening to a singular note raise in volume feel worth it. Now that I think about it, his music is written out like the story pyramids you had to do in English class. Rising action, climax, and sometimes falling action. I mean, he's done it before where, like, the music just stops, but, you know, it checks out. And one last thing before I move on about Hans Zimmer. Other than the fact that his music is pretty much all build up, for some reason, he really likes, the first note, especially in The Dark Knight, where it's just John Williams. Okay, I just talked about this man because he did Star Wars, but if you do not know Hans Zimmer, you know John Williams. Let's see what he's done. He did Jurassic Park, the first 3 Harry Potters, Jaws. He did a lot of Spielberg stuff. Alexandre Desplat. Now, I'm not super familiar, like a massive fan of Alexandre Desplat. I don't know if I'm screwing that up. That's how Google said they pronounced it. But he did Little Women and Deathly Hallows, and I like those ones. Michael Giacchino. This man, he knows what he's doing. Michael Giacchino is my favorite and, in my opinion, the best film composer to ever walk the earth. Hell, this year alone, he's done The Batman, Jurassic World Dominion, Lightyear, and Thor Love and Thunder. And he's still got Werewolf by Night. This man is a legend. Now, I know he's been talked about a lot recently, but he scored some films that not a lot of people may know he did, like Jojo Rabbit and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. The thing I love about his music is that no matter the tone, there is a little spice in there that lets you know this was Michael Giacchino. In Spider-Man No Way Home alone, no pun intended, there's the quirky, kinda silly Spider-Man theme that played throughout the Homecoming trilogy, the over-the-top battle music that plays over pretty much every fight scene, the reincorporation of music from the older films, mainly the Raimi trilogy, the haunting piano arrangement that plays after the death of Aunt May, spoilers, I guess, the excessive yet beautiful strings backing Peter's goodbye, and, to top it all off, the culmination of the Homecoming theme's maturity playing over the final swing. That's all in one movie. Now, diversity in tracks in a film score is fairly common as, you know, you don't want to be listening to the same thing 30 times. But then there's stuff like Stranger Things where pretty much every track sounds the same, but also sounds different. I don't know how to explain it because this part was unscripted, but you know, it's pretty cool. Like the stuff in Stranger Things, it's all synth-based, it's all 80s nostalgia, but it matches the emotion of the scenes and is to the advantage of being instantly iconic. Back to Michael Giacchino. So we got No Way Home, right? Well, Let's go to the opposite side of the spectrum, where you got Matt Reeves' The Batman. Though both this and the former are comic book films, the tones of either one could not be any more different, and since the Batman's tone is different, so is the music. While No Way Home's score was super comic booky and over the top, the Batman's is brooding and dark and dramatic, and fits the almost gothic feel of the world it takes place in. However, that is not the major difference I noticed between the two. Most of Spidey's theme can be played in like a theme park line, because the song just starts when you press play. Okay, you know what I mean. Meanwhile, Mikey G took a page out of Hans's book and filled the Batman soundtrack with nearly the same amount of excessive buildup as, let's say, Interstellar. Hans Zimmer did Interstellar. You know what Hans Zimmer also did? The Dark Knight. Maybe it's just a Batman thing, who knows? And one last thing about Michael Giacchino that I feel gets overlooked. When he rescored Space Mountain, oh my god, that ride wouldn't be the same if it had another soundtrack. Also, I'm aware he did Ratatouille, he did Up. Other film composers, Danny Elfman is absolutely great. Alan Silvestri, who did the Avengers films, oh my god, Portals is absolutely incredible. And lastly, the woman who did Joker is absolutely incredible. She also did stuff like Chernobyl. I do not know how to pronounce her name, and I do not want to butcher it, but I'll put her name up on screen because I think she's great. But that's all I got for you today. Bit of a different video from the other stuff I've been posting, but you know, variety and such. I'm using a different type of mic right now, so yeah, it's I was originally using my phone, and now I'm using the iPhone like wired headphones microphone. So yeah, but I found these microphone. I'm not gonna lie, I found this headset on the floor at school, and I picked it up. So yeah, ignoring that, anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and stay gold, everyone. Oh, Toodles! My voice cracked during that one.